Hello, and welcome to Transitioning to Agile. In this short lesson, we will cover the following: a brief introduction to Agile, description of Agile events and artifacts. We will also answer the questions: when to use Scrum, when to use Waterfall. Waterfall deliverables and processes, do they exist in Agile? At the end of this lesson, I hope that you will achieve the following: a clearer understanding of the Agile practice using the Scrum Framework, an appreciation that both Waterfall and Agile methodologies can coexist and both has its merits, have a better understanding of the comparative Waterfall deliverables and processes in Agile, and enlighten and encourage you to learn and embrace the Agile practice. It is evident that the shift from Waterfall to Agile has taken place as you read the job postings on LinkedIn, Indeed, and other job boards. The hiring organizations are looking for project managers with Agile knowledge and experience. They are looking for project managers who can deliver value over and above just delivering outputs. This lesson assumes the following: the listener has an understanding of the Waterfall method. The listener is planning to or thinking about embracing the Agile practice. The listener has an open mind in learning more about Agile and its benefits. This is not a bash down of the Waterfall methodology and not a sell-up of the Agile practice either. This is not a complete and thorough session on Agile, but will cover the fundamentals of the Scrum Framework. A little bit of history. In February of 2001, 17 software practitioners formulated and agreed on the 4 basic Agile principles that is now popularly known as the Agile Manifesto. It states that to develop faster software, the key focus will be on the following: individuals and interactions over processes and tools, working software over comprehensive documentation, customer collaboration over contract negotiation, and responding to change over following a plan. Perhaps the most distinguishing change with Agile is the inverted triple constraint, where both cost and schedule are fixed while keeping the scope variable. This allows more flexibility in what can be delivered without compromising cost and schedule, since these two constraints are fixed. In essence, the Scrum team has fixed dollars and time to deliver the best quality product that they can deliver. Compared to the Waterfall methodology, the Scrum Framework is non-prescriptive and provides flexibility to the practitioner to utilize the events, artifacts, and roles that best suits their project. We will get to a more detailed discussion of the Scrum events, artifacts, and roles in the next slides. The main distinguishing characteristic of Agile is the delivery of many small workable increments that integrates to the final increment as defined in the product roadmap. This gives the Scrum team the opportunity to be transparent on what's being developed, the opportunity for the business to review and inspect the increment, and fine-tune the requirements, thus producing a value-add increment at the end of each sprint. There are many flavors of Agile, but for the purpose of this lesson, we will focus on Scrum. The succeeding slides will focus on Scrum events and artifacts. The sprint lies at the core of the Scrum Framework. It can be thought of as an event which wraps all other Scrum events like sprint planning, daily Scrum, Scrum review, and Scrum retrospective. Sprint is a repeatable time box during which an increment is created. The duration can last somewhere between 1 week and 4 weeks, depending upon the Scrum team. As a general rule, the riskier the project, the shorter the sprint interval. At the start of a sprint, the Scrum team reviews the prioritized product backlog and selects the user stories that will provide the most value to be completed during the sprint. Story pointing techniques are used to estimate the work effort. In essence, sprint planning defines a sprint goal, what can be delivered in the sprint, and how this will be achieved. The daily scrum is a 15-minute meeting. It is best to keep this on a regular daily schedule to maintain cadence, the purpose of which is to inspect the progress towards a sprint goal and to adapt the sprint backlog as necessary. The 3 questions asked at the daily scrum are: what did you do yesterday? What will you do today? And are there any impediments in your way of completing your task? It is the responsibility of the Scrum team to address and eliminate these impediments. At the end of the iteration, the team gives a demo of the product or increment. The Scrum Master, product owner, other team members, and stakeholders will attend. It is designed to gather actionable feedback on what features or bugs need to be added or fixed in the product increment. The stakeholder feedback is captured and fed back to the product backlog for review during the upcoming sprint. The sprint retrospective is a recurring meeting held at the end of a sprint. It is used to discuss what went well during the previous sprint cycle and what can be improved for the next sprint. The Agile Sprint Retrospective is an essential part of the Scrum Framework for developing, delivering, and managing complex projects. A product backlog is a prioritized list of work for the development team that is derived from the roadmap and its requirements. The most important items are shown at the top of the product backlog so that team knows what to deliver first. The sprint backlog is the list of user stories selected by the Scrum team from the product backlog to be completed during the sprint. During sprint planning, the Scrum team identifies the tasks necessary to complete the user stories. An increment is a concrete stepping stone toward the product goal. Each increment is additive to all prior increments. The increments are thoroughly verified, ensuring that the integrated increments work together. In order to provide value, the increment must be usable. Now that you know a little bit more on Scrum, in the next few slides, we will identify various conditions when it is best to use Agile and when it is best to use Waterfall. So use Scrum when the scope is unclear, when the requirements are constantly changing, activities are unknown ahead of time, process is iterative, and success is measured by value. Use Waterfall when the scope is clear, requirements are fixed, activities are known and predictable, process follows a specific pattern, and success is measured by meeting scope and budget. Now, this is the feel-good section of the lesson. It is my hope that this section will give you the aha moment as it pertains to deliverables and supporting processes. See, most of us are so used to the waterfall deliverables that we can recite them by face and identify the contents of each deliverables by heart. Waterfall uses the following process to manage and control project execution. Processes like communication management, risk management, change management, release management, stakeholder management, and other processes that is used. Question is, what are the comparable waterfall deliverables and processes in Agile? Let's start first with a business case. The business case is not part of a standard Scrum deliverable. However, its creation is essential to starting the project. This can come in any form as specified by the organization. The Agile project charter are broad and high level, unlike the waterfall project charters that are very, very specific. The Agile project charter defines the following: who will be engaged, what is the project about, where will the project take place, when will the project start and end, Why is the project being chartered? And how are the goals of the project going to be achieved? The Agile Project Charter is typically a one-pager, unlike the Waterfall Project Charter that contains pages and pages of information. The product roadmap is comparable to the product requirements document, also known as PRD. The roadmap is a plan of action for how a product or solution will evolve over time. Product owners use roadmaps to outline the future product functionality and when new features will be released. There are no formal requirements document in Scrum. The product backlog and the sprint backlogs are the main source of product requirements. The product backlog continues to evolve as new requirements are added in and prioritized by the product owner. There are no high-level or low-level design documents. The sprint design can come in any shape or form as long as the development team understands how the sprint will be accomplished. There are no formal acceptance test plan in Scrum. Instead, the sprint goal, definition of done, and user-story test criteria are used to test and accept each increment. Remember the second point of the Agile Manifesto? We value working software over comprehensive documentation. There is no formal communication management plan in Scrum. Communication is built into the framework. Burn up, burn down charts are used as information radiators to provide sprint status. The appropriate team members and stakeholders are invited to attend the Scrum events, stand-up meeting, sprint review, and sprint retrospectives. There is no formal risk management plan in Scrum. Risks are assessed as part of a daily stand-up, specifically answering the question, are there any impediments that may prevent you from completing your work? Change requests and change orders are not used in Scrum. Remember, changes are welcome in Scrum. New or change requirements are entered in the product backlog, which are then reviewed and prioritized by the product owner. There's no formal release management plan in Scrum either. The sprints are designed to incrementally release increments in accordance with the product roadmap. There's no stakeholder management plan. The sprint reviews are used to communicate with the target stakeholders. When possible, face-to-face discussions with stakeholders are strongly encouraged. Monitoring and control is achieved daily as part of stand-up meetings. The status of the burn-down charts are reviewed to ensure that the development is proceeding as planned. Adjustments are made right away should there be a deviation from the plan. Cost control is built into the framework since cost is fixed. Unless there is a major change in the direction of the overall project, no additional budget is introduced to the project. The execution of lessons learned is part of the framework. At the end of each sprint, the Scrum team reviews what went well, what did not go as well, and what needs improvement in the next iteration. Well, this concludes our short lesson on transitioning to Agile. Thank you so much for your time. I hope that you learned from this lesson and now have a clearer understanding of the Agile practice using the Scrum Framework, that you have an appreciation that both Waterfall and Agile methodologies can coexist, and that both methodologies have their own merit, that you have a better understanding of the comparative Waterfall deliverables and processes in Agile. And I do hope that you feel more comfortable in learning and adapting Agile practices. Till next time.